This is one that we would consider marginal for fillets.
Yeah.
We like to get them between 25 pounds and up before they get a lot of bulk on them.
Wow.
Not a lot of meat on them to take off, believe it or not. They have a lot of weight in their heads. It's a very, very bony head. You'll see.
Do the 25-pounders jump too?
Oh yeah,
They all jump.
the 70-pounders jump too.
Wow.
Did you ever have one hit you?
Oh yeah, it hurts. I don't know if you've seen the videos on the Illinois River. They have cages around the driver.
Oh, do they?
Oh yeah. We've got.
I watched a show one time where guys went out boat fishing. They went down the river, and one of them got hit in the head. A couple of them did.
Well, I think it's kind of interesting. Like you said, there's a lot of weight in the head, and they actually got these. They're called Y bones, and you can kind of see if y'all want to pick them up, and look at them. They got a double row of these Y bones, and you kind of see why they're called Y bones. And what actually happens is there's actually a set above the lateral line, and then there's another set below the lateral line that you got to cut out. So they're actually frying it up right now. So we actually have some boneless for you all to try tonight, and we actually have something else like, for lack of a better term, we call them flying carp wings. And basically what we're doing is we're cutting these and look like chicken fingers, fish sticks. And what you do is when they bring them out, we'll show you which ones they are. You actually break these things. These bones will pop out, and you just grab it and slide it out, and then it's all boneless. And it's kind of interesting because when we do them boneless, we get about a 10% yield off of it. So a 10-pound fish, you get about a pound of meat.
Wow.
If you do it boneless. Now, if you go with the carp wings, and we'll show that, you actually go from like 10% maybe up to like 15 or 18% because you're leaving the bones in, cooking it, and the bones fall out. So there's a couple ways to do it. We'll show a couple different ways. But the way you start off is kind of about like any other big fish. The main thing is we'll cut down the dorsal, cut around the rib cage, and take the big side out. So we'll show this. There's only one place when you cut these off that you actually cut through bones. And it's just cut right here behind the head. There's some bones there. The rest of it, when you cut it off, you shouldn't cut through any bones. So we'll get started, and we'll see what happens. So I make my first cut. I just cut there behind the head, cut down to the rib cage, and then I come down here on that dorsal. You can feel that spine. Basically, just follow that spine all the way down to the base of the tail.
So you're not going in all the way with the knife. How deep you normally cut it?
I'm going about halfway, and I hit that vertebrae. So I'm going about halfway. That tip of that blade's about right here, and I'm just following that vertebrae down because what'll happen is if you go all the way through and just cut on top of that, you'll actually leave meat there. So what I'll do is I'll cut to there, and then I'll pull it back, and then I'll angle the knife down again so I don't leave meat behind. And just trying to maximize because it's hard to get a bunch of boneless meat off there anyway. So.
If you can imagine, when these fish grow, they get very much so more bulky. A lot more meat on there. This is really a tough one for him to demonstrate on because there's just not a whole lot of meat there.
Yeah.
So that's a small.
This is a small one. I mean, personally, I like doing this when they're about 20 plus pounds. Because when you get done, I mean, well, you'll see here in a second, but
What do these fish eat?
I've had fish eat.
they filter the water, and they are actually feeding on plankton.
That's the problem.
So yeah, so they're competing with about every fish species out there because at some point every fish feeds on plankton. There's zooplankton.
And the bugs too.
So they don't eat smaller fish.
No, they don't eat any fish.
They eat any dead stuff or just plankton?
Mainly, they just swim around and filter the water.
The big problem with these fish is that they grow so fast and they feed so much. These eat what's called phytoplankton, which is just real minute plants in the water. And the zooplankton is the next up in line in the food chain, and they eat the phytoplankton. So if this thing takes out all the phytoplankton, there's nothing there for zooplankton. Every fish that we have in the country feeds on zooplankton at some time in their life. Zooplankton are minute invertebrates.
I actually messed up on the wrong side of the spine there. But so basically, you'll do this on both sides. And what we'll do is you can actually see before I get started, you can actually see there's a little bit of red meat. People talk about like mud veins and things like that. So there's a little bit of red meat, and what we'll do is we'll make sure we get that out. That can give it just a little bit of like a musty, little off flavor. So we just get that out of there in the flaying process, and that way it tastes great. And the thing is you'll be pretty surprised when you eat this. I mean, it's going to blow your mind. It tastes really good. It's a mild fish. I mean, you can see it's a good white meat. It's real flaky, and basically, kind of whatever you season it with, kind of the flavor that it takes on. So it's really nice. So what we do is once we get the fillet off, so this is the top of the fish. This would be the belly of the fish facing this way. And what we want to do is we want to actually just go ahead and cut this fillet in half. And basically, if you look, there's kind of a line you'll just follow, just split it by. And what I typically do, I'll just pop the knife in and I'll just cut right down it.
You run on each side of that.
So, yeah, so basically when you break it open, you split that red meat.
Oh, so you're running right through.
So I'm running right down the center of that red meat. So, and then it's a pretty neat process. You can do it in a couple steps. I found it actually works a little bit better to do it in one step. Is you can actually go ahead and cut the skin off. Again, this is the top half of the fillet. You can cut the skin off of the flesh and go ahead and remove the red meat in one step. And to do that, what you want to do is you want to run your knife out past your fillet. You actually want to push down on the tip of that knife and kind of flex it. Because what you're going to do is when you cut across it, you're going to pick the back of the knife up above this red meat. And so as you're cutting it off, you're above that red meat. So when it comes off, it should be just plain white meat. So I normally just cheat in a little bit to give myself something to hold on to. And again, from this point forward, you should never cut a bone. You'll cut around bones. But if you're cutting through bones at this point, you know, you're kind of getting off track a little bit. So you'll start down through here. Again, really kind of exaggerate, pick that up and follow that red meat. You'll see my knife blade's kind of flat on that side. And just work down it nice and easy. Keep that back side up.
How many of these have you cleaned?
A lot. Or too many, or...
Having a small crew at 100 pounds.
It's the electric knife.
Can't bend
The
it like
thing is, I mean, there's so many bones in here. With an electric knife, you would just butcher it. Because you wouldn't be able to feel those bones together. I mean, you can see how small these bones are. And I mean, you can kind of see where they're at. They're laying in there like this. I walk around where people can see. But you can see it. Every one of those is a bone. You can kind of see those little white lines. So every one of those is those Y bones. And again, there's a set in this piece of meat. There's also another set in this bottom fillet. So you can see there's a bunch of them to cut around. So, but the thing is, there's a couple options we can do with this at this point. And if I'm going too fast, just say stop if you want to get a better look. All those little white lines, that's those little wild bones.
Wow.
There's a bunch of them in every piece of this meat.
Worse than a pike. It's got two sets of hands on each side.
Yeah, it's worse than pike.
Yeah, it has to be.
So you'll cut them back out, like flay them out of there?
Yeah, so we'll actually cut them out. So we got the skin off. I'll lay that out of the way. So what'll happen is this bone's actually laying in here. It's laying here like this, so this little point is actually sticking up. And what you do is you can actually, if you look, you can actually see little white dots. And what I'll do is I'm actually coming in and I'm going to cut on each side of this Y bone. So I'm going to cut down like this, and I'm going to come on the other side and cut down like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to follow that bone out to the edge and then cut back under it. That's one piece of meat. And then on this side you'll do the same thing, except you're cutting and you got a little bit tighter turn and then you got to cut back out. So I'll show you what that looks like.
If you were doing wings, what would you be doing?
Alright, if you're doing wings, it's a little bit easier. You actually flip it over.
Not
They
really.
don't want you to
These
release.
bones are pretty exaggerated, the angle. You actually sit there and skip about 3 bones, cut it like that, skip 3 bones, cut it like that, skip 3 bones, cut it like that, down here to the tail section. Now when you get to the tail section, the bones change, the Y bones stop, and there's a bunch of flat bones. I missed that piece of meat there. But, and they just kind of run every which way like this, and there's no good way to get that piece of meat off. So on a big fish, what you can actually do is take that tail section, cut down behind that Y bone, and actually flay it like a regular fish. On a 20-pound fish, you'll actually get a big steak off of it.
Wow.
So again, the thing to remember is this is kind of a small fish. It's a tough demo piece. When we get these like that, or keep in mind, we get these that are like 20 plus pounds. This first piece of meat I cut off of here in a second, it'll be about this big around, and it'll be about that long. Wow. So the bigger the fish, the easier it is, the better your yield is.
Where was this one caught?
This one was caught in western Kentucky by a commercial fisherman. I think it was on a trip to the...
He went on a small tributary that's on the Mississippi River. He went in there and got about 4,000 pounds in about 2 hours. What usually happens in the tribs, they're usually the smaller fish inside those smaller tribs. The bigger fish tend to hang out a little more in the bigger water, and Kentucky and Barbary Lakes evidently.
So they're harvesting these now. You said commercial, so they're harvesting them.
This is in western Kentucky. We have one guy, the guy that got these fish. He does a little bit of fillet products, but mostly he exports.
So you can start seeing those
his
bones
fish to
behind the
Illinois.
back.
He guts them.
So there's the end of it. We'll do is we'll cut back under.
In Illinois.
Just to give you an idea of how many bones are in there. You can see
They do
them
about
better now.
80,000 pounds a week is all, but they do some.
China's eating. We need about 100 more of him, right? Are they paying too?
Yeah, you can see them just a hair better.
Unfortunately not. If that's the case, I'll see you later. I got a new job.
This is the good stuff on that side, and the bones up it. Right
So yeah, so for lack of better, that's like the back strap off a deer.
Yeah.
You can get a better idea of how you can see the Y bones there while I lay the meat back off of it. Yeah, there's a good line of them. All right.
This is pure right? Or you just I see the bones here.
I got to do the same thing on this side.
Throw that fish in the ground. I always say,
Honestly, when you get used to the carpet,
Especially if they can buy chicken nuggets are made out of. And then they glue it all back
it's
together.
not like having to pick around the bone.
It could be, but they don't know when
You ever see how a chicken nugget's made? Watch my YouTube all the time.
See how easy it is
Our
to
balance,
It's everything.
balance a trade, right?
Get hot dogs out of them, and I've heard they're the best hot dogs the guys have ever eaten of them.
Hot dog, fish hot dog.
You ever look at this thing?
So that's a boneless
like
piece
a
of
bunch
meat.
of goo. You bind it
So that one
up,
I
not
just cut it
chicken
to
meat.
pieces
It's
and
like
fried up.
It's like goofy.
I know the guy that told me that.
You do the same thing on the bottom.
Wow.
This is worse. Goodness gracious. A lot of work getting, that little, of course, like I think I catch about a dozen of those on my freeway.
I don't know. That's a lot easier than cleaning a bunch of little bluegill and not getting
You
much.
got any market for the leftovers if you get the fillets out? Fish meal or something?
I'll take care of you.
I bet, Joe.
So
you
it-
probably.
So both of those are boneless pieces of meat.
Yeah. So what do you do with the rest of the stuff that's left?
So this at this point is trash.
Yeah.
Unless you want to eat it.
I mean,
You can eat around
Is
it if
there,
you
is
wanted
there a
to.
commercial
Or a
use
really
for it?
bad prank on your neighbor, one or the other.
it seems like from a commercial standpoint, since most of the fish is still around, if you could make it into fish meal or fertilizer or something.
There's a very, very big fish meal market. Almost every fish we caught during that Carp Madness tournament went to a guy out of Mississippi. It's called Protein Products. And this guy in Illinois wasn't up and running yet, but he came up and paid me 2 cents a pound for them, and usually they pay like 8 cents a pound. But he took everything we had, and I was really grateful for that.
Yeah.
So here's a nice thing about the rib meat. The Y bones don't start back here, so all the meat that's around the ribs, again, it's the small ones. But all these bigger ones, it'll be a pretty good thick piece of meat. You can flay on around there, cut that off. That's completely boneless. And then what's nice with these is you can actually sit there, make carp wings out of these. You can cut. You can just rip them. Oops, I didn't rip very good.
Carp wing's a goose wing. We call those sky carp.
Sky carp. So the carp wings you can just cut down, and again, you don't want to cut through a bone because you don't want any little pieces left in there. Because what'll be nice is you can take this carp wing, cook it, snap it in half, the bone will actually pop out. They're big enough that they won't become brittle and break. You bend it in half, it pops up like that. You grab it, slide it out. Now you got a whole chunk of boneless meat. And now, I mean, look how much you're wasting compared to this.
Yeah.
So, and again, it's very easy to do this. We actually were cooking it both ways at the Carp Madness tournament. A lot of people were like, I don't like stuff with bones in it. They said, all right, kids, you try it. And so they set their kids up there to try the stuff with the bones, and which I didn't understand. The kids would go, oh, this is easy. The mom goes, all right, give me some. And people kind of prefer doing it this way. Again, your yield probably goes up 5 to 8% on the fish. It's really easy to fix. There's no waste, and it's actually a lot quicker to do these than to do this. But some people still kind of like the boneless stuff. So either way is a good option. I'll try to get another piece out of the cooler and do a row of carp wings for us.
Right now, you can probably buy carp wings for about $3.50 a pound from the processor. It's pretty cheap. And until it catches on, when it catches on, it's all over.
Yeah, then it's going to be $7.
Yeah, I saw a Kroger with tilapia was selling for like $6 a pound the other day. This stuff kills tilapia. It doesn't taste as ever.
That's probably the tilapia that they shipped in from China.
Probably. I'm going to take these inside.
Just a little bit of meat on there.
So has anybody worked on a brand name?
It's going to be Speckled and Moore. There you go. Oh, there you go. Now, he did a fantastic job on that little fish. You should have seen me trying to work. Well, you'll see what I did, actually, when you eat these. I had a lot of little chunks, but that's why I brought him here. He's getting 2 nice pieces of meat off of this fish, and it's a small fish. So.
You still got the other side.
It's hard to believe that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You get 4 of these.
Well, yeah, and actually you actually get 8 pieces. You'll get 4 off each side because that's just off the top half of that fillet.
That's true. Yeah.
Now the bottom half they'll be a little bit smaller, but you'll actually get 8 pieces of meat about that size off of it. Okay. And plus again. You get this. You get the rib.
Turn into an Asian carp fisherman.
You get the rib meat you can cut off. So there's a couple options. Let me do another one. I'll show you what carp wings look like.
What time of year is best to bow shoot these things?
Whenever you can do it.
I mean, they're always there, or what?
Yeah, I mean.
Is there one time where they're along the surface more than others, or?
No, I mean. During the winter, they're a little tougher to get. They don't want to come to the surface a little deeper, but once that water starts warming up, I mean, of course, up in like Illinois stuff, they bow fish them out of their boats and stuff. But I mean, they're up on the surface. I mean, the areas I would target is like backwaters to these big rivers. They will get behind the dams, but most of the time they really like backwaters, the mouth of tribs, places like that's where we find them the best. So they kind of like the slack water. They don't want to be out in that main current all the time.
Summer, or anytime?
Come spring all the way through the fall, you should be golden.
Really?
They should be up. Yeah. And if you want to see if they're there, just put your boat on, just plow water with your boat, and just look behind you. If they're jumping, you're in the right spot. Because if they're there, they're going to be flying everywhere.
Can you fly fish for them?
And just hit the side of your boat with your paddle and they'll start going.
Really? What causes them to do that? They just scares them, or what?
They're very scared.
You need a net.
just catch them in the net, right? Yeah.
Just throw them in your cooler and take them when you need to.
All right, we're gonna go. You're gonna set up front with a baseball bat. They jump out of the water. Hit them. I'm gonna go as fast as I can. You get a helmet. Swing.
You what?
All right, so I'm gonna cut up some carp wings just to show you what it looks like.
Also, I just had a question about contaminants.
Oh, yeah.
These fish, because they feed on the upper part of the water column, very few contaminants. They have less contaminants than any other fish species in the river, basically.
Really?
They're very high on omega-3s. They're a very healthy meat. It's really kind of unbelievable.
Yeah, you got that much more.
Basically, when you
It's the #1 culture item.
when you do this carp wings a lot, again, just make sure you don't cut through bones. You don't want to make them any smaller, because then then they become like a choking hazard or something. But
You're going about 3 ribs.
3, for me personally, I like 3 ribs. I think that's a pretty good chunk of meat.
Yeah.
And you cook it up, you still got a pretty good chunk of meat. So But I mean, you can see, you can do that all the way back here to this tail section. As soon as you get this tail section, the bones change shapes again. So this back section is right there, this part right here, that part, you can see they're real flat there on the bottom. A lot of times you can cut that top piece of meat off or just pitch it out. But, I mean, you can see how much quicker that was. And then at this point, let's see here, at this point, that's all that I threw away from that piece of filet. And all that's edible. Again, you got to break it open, pull the 3 bones out, and eat it. We have some we're cooking like that, so you'll get to see it in action and try it. But I kind of prefer this way because I can flay them a whole lot quicker, and I don't waste as much meat.
That. It didn't take you any time at all.
Oh no. So
I mean, really, that's quicker than cleaning a bunch of little bluegill and getting hardly no meat off.
I'll say this: if I'm going down the river and I have a 20-pounder jump in the boat, you can get a lot of meat off of that. And again, it's pretty quick.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the time you've invested for the pile of meat you get, especially these things. You know, you're golden. You're good to eat several meals.
Right.
What's the best way to cook it? You probably talk about this, we actually have tried them different ways as a chef that's worked on different recipes. And he probably can tell you a little bit more, but we've deep fried them, we've baked them, we've rolled them. I've had brats made out of these. I've had them pan fried. I've had them boiled and chilled and eat them like shrimp.
Really?
I throw a little Old Bay on them and a little cocktail sauce. I've had them. So I've had like pancakes made out of them. However you can dream it up, it works.
Angie Yu owns that new processing plant in Western Kentucky. She has 400 recipes for them. Chef Perola out of Louisiana sells these for $17 a plate. He must have 20 or 30 recipes. He like he said, he blackens them. He's got several sauces. If you get on the net, actually, he has his recipes on the net.
Do you have a diagram of what you've been doing here today available?
There's an excellent, a lot of videos on it, but the best one comes from a guy by the name of Dwayne Chapman. He's with the USGS. He's got a YouTube video, and he goes through and does what David's doing right here, and then he shows you as he's going with x-rays of bones and stuff, how these things would look as you're taking it off. It's excellent. That's what I would recommend.
I'm just thinking if I'm standing there over a fish cleaning station and I don't have any video in front of me, I got to figure out, pull the map out, the diagram.
I mean, what you're seeing here is great, and I think it's a nice introduction to tell you what you can do, but you really do need a video or something, go step by step.
Yeah.
I tried it yesterday. Like I said, I was in Western Kentucky, and I've seen him do it, and I've seen videos several times, and I put some in Louisiana? There's no limit, so just get a bunch and practice. I have no comment for that, sir.
So basically, I mean, at that point, we got a pile of meat, and that's basically the only waste I got now.
And that was just the bottom half, on one side.
That's just one side. So, and again, I mean, you take this is a little fish. You take a fish this is probably, I don't know, maybe a 7 or 8 pound fish. You take a 20-pound fish, and you do that, and I'd have to hold it like this, just one side. So, but again, they're awesome to eat. It's just a little learning curve, but it's like anything you do. You know, first time you do it, you're going to go, what the heck?
Do they bite on anything? Will they bite on?
No, you can't. No, that's what makes them hard. That's why the commercial guys are doing such a good job, because they can just net them in their gill nets. But you're not going to get them to bite anything. I've heard of some accidental catches, but I mean, nothing. I mean, you're not going to throw a bobber out with a piece of bread on it. You might accidentally get one to.
So you either jump in your boat, or you shoot them with the
boat. Jump with a boat. Boat fishing is a really good option. Or get them from commercial guys.
Can you legally net them yourself?
I figured if you're running gill nets, you got to have a commercial license.
What if you just your own dip net? Can you pick them up in a dip net? No.
You have a better chance to just have them jump in your boat.
I started saying the easiest way to do it is is just plow water. Like just put it about a quarter throttle where you're just plowing water and just duck.
These things are really fun to bowfish. Big head come up at night a lot. Really silver, you don't have to wait that till at night, especially on a cloudy day. You can get them all day. You can bowfish again.
How do those commercial guys keep the game fish out Other than
You
that.
know what? Two things. One, when these things, they travel in huge schools. And what we're seeing is that when these things move in, everything else pretty much gets out of the way.
Really?
They just don't want nothing to do with it. And between that and the fact that, you know, the fishermen are just good at targeting what they're after. We saw that in the Carp Madness tournament. They only had like a handful of bass they caught in one night, 2 days. I think we had one paddlefish die. I don't remember how many miles of netting they had on.
Wow.
So it's just a matter of their expertise for one, and the fact that these things just overwhelm me.
So you should get hazard pay then now.
I would like to go down there.
That first cut, I didn't tell y'all this, the first cut doesn't have Y bones in it. It's got a big knot of bones. So if you notice that first piece, I actually just set it aside. I did it on this last one too. It's got so many bones, it got so many different directions. You can't flay it off, and then I try to cook it and eat it, but it's just, there's so many bones to pick through. And there's so much other meat, I just pitch it aside and just go with what's easy. So I'll do this one in carp wings too.
Now, how far up, if at all, the Ohio are they?
We've got them all the way up to Greenup, Lock and Dam. The Falls of the Ohio is a pretty darn good barrier for them. So from there down is the majority of them. They have gotten through. We see decent numbers up like in McAlpin, up around Carrollton. But now once we get into like Markland, up by Cincinnati, and going into Ashland, the numbers drop dramatically. There are some there, but there's really low numbers.
Do you anticipate that they'll continue to move up?
We have a project right now that's called the Leading Edge Project. Pennsylvania's really worried about it moving up, so they had a foundation called Qualcomm out of Pennsylvania give us $150,000 to work on the leading edge. What they found is you keep these densities down, they have a lesser propensity to want to move upriver, and so all our job is we hire about 4 different commercial fishermen to come up about every other week and fish what we call the leading edge, which is the Greenup pool and the Meldal pool right now. And we're also fishing a little bit in the Markland pool because they have more fish. So if we can keep those numbers down in the Markland pool, maybe there'll be less even trying to get up into the other pools.
But you have caught some above Meldal?
Oh yeah, they've got them all the way up into Greenup pool, right below R.C. Bird Dam. They've been found all the way up near Pennsylvania. The good news is it takes more than a couple of fish to make a population, contrary to some people believe. So we're working really hard to try and keep these things from going any further than the Greenup or Meldal.
Have you checked like the Licking River or anything?
They're up the Licking River somewhat. As a matter of fact, when we catch them in that pool, that's usually where we're at. These things do like to go up in the tributaries. When they spawn, they need running water. Because when they spawn their eggs are just semi-buoyant. They'll settle to the bottom if there's not enough current. So they need enough current to keep them embryos tumbling down until they hatch. So every time there's a fulsome rain, like we've had a lot of rain this year, they'll move up river and try to spawn. Or it could be a licking river, it could be a stream, it could be the main stem of the Ohio River. If there's enough flow.